Hello and welcome to the very first But Clearly podcast. We are so excited that you're joining us today and tuning in. Before we get started, we would be remiss if we didn't introduce ourselves one by one. So I'll start off with Yolanda. If you could just introduce yourself, let the people know who you are and a little bit about yourself.
What up, everybody? Welcome to the But Clearly podcast. This is your girl, Yolanda. I'm all the way here in Birmingham, Alabama. Super excited to be here with each and every one of you. Sit back, relax, enjoy. We're about to have a good time.
Nee?
Hey everybody, it's me, Reunita, Nita, as you see at the screen. But anyway, talking to you live from Short Pump, Virginia. Super excited about this venture, so can't wait to get it rolling.
And I am Shavonda, aka Vonda, aka Captain Von Von, coming to you all the way from
childhood nickname.
It's a childhood nickname. I promise you. There's a story there.
Captain Von Von?
Okay, yeah. So, how it kind of went down was when I was younger. I used to be very eccentric, and like I am now, like super extra above the top. So we were in Connecticut. And I was going to the store, right? I was like, I don't even know. I may have been like 8 or 9 years old, but I had on these corduroy pants, this sweater, and these cowboy boots, and you couldn't tell me nothing. And so my uncle,
stop.
How you?
I
going?
Need to give the background to this.
Here we go.
It is July. It is hot as fire. She has on corduroy pants, cowboy boots, with a sweater that she has refashioned to be like a sweater dress. She took the sleeves, put them in. It was just like a whole
It was
thing.
a moment. So anyway, my uncle comes driving down the street. He's like, Mom, where are you going looking like that? And he started calling me Captain Bon Bon from that time. So that is how Captain Bon Bon came about. So my family, when people are around, they might hear him go, Captain Bon Bon, like that. So it's very extra. But I'm extra, so it's fine. So he has the ability to call me that. Not everybody else can call me that. But anyways, I'm Shavonda, a.k.a. Vonda, a.k.a. Von Von, whatever you want to call me. Coming all the way from Richmond, Virginia. I'm super excited to be connected with my sisters. You know, this is a friendship and sisterhood that has been around for, man, how many years, right? Like
a long time now.
It's been a long time. I mean, me and Yolanda, we're connected through church. And I remember the first time that we met, it was just like such a connection. Like within a month, we had moved in with each other. Like, and everybody was like, "What is wrong with you guys?" But God gave us a strategy to save money, right? Nee was one of them. Now Nee talks to Yolanda more than me. But and Nee is
that's a rarity, but we'll get to that.
Anyway, Nee is my sister by blood. So obviously we grew up in the same household, but when I was younger, I was like the shy one. Nee's always been very politically correct, and people just used to always hate my guts. So I had a lot of insecurities growing up, and it wasn't until my teenage years when I knew how to fight that people started to leave me alone. But
escalating pretty quickly.
But anyway, I say all that to say that
Bon, the fighter.
We have very distinct personalities. And so one of the things that I hope that you guys grasp from But Clearly podcast is that we are the everyday woman. We're not the same, but that's what makes us beautiful. So y'all ready to get into our first discussion?
I think we are, but since you opened the door on nicknames,
okay.
I love to hear Reunita's nickname that gives a little bit more about her personality. So we know why Captain Von Von is Captain Von Von, which I will call you that from now until eternity.
Oh my God.
But Reunita, do you have a particular nickname that you go by that tells us a little more about your personality?
No.
You go by, you say brown sugar a lot when you talk about yourself.
Ooh.
I am brown sugar, but no,
Were you given that name, or tell me the story behind that? I would love to know.
Well, there was this one time in high school, and there was this song that came out by a certain gentleman by the name of D'Angelo, Richmond's finest. And if you were chocolate at that point, that's what they called you. Called you brown sugar. Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
but
I didn't
no.
know
As
that.
far as my nickname, as far as my nicknames go, no, they're literally all centered around my name. So
So tell everybody the meaning of your name, Renita.
Renita. Well, in
Where did it come
Italian, it
from?
means uh oh, where'd it come from? So
Yeah.
my mom wanted to name me Rita. My dad wanted to name me Anita. They put it together and came up with Renita. My aunt, I love her, Aunt Sandra, but she spelled it, and she spelled it in a way that no one ever knows how to say my name in my entire life. So, so,
Right.
um, so yeah, but that's how I got Renita. In Italian, it means feisty, rebellious. In Spanish, it means little queen. And I think that in some ways that kind of describes me.
I think feisty
It's a
rebellion
little,
is very fitting. It's
a little queen
giving.
for me.
It's the
A
feisty
little.
rebellion for me because that's exactly who Nia is. Oh my god, she's very stubborn and headstrong, super smart, but sometimes I be wanting to like
Come
punch
with
you in the face.
it.
So my name means it's actually derived from a French name Shavonda, which means God is gracious, and I've needed all that grace my entire life. So God is
And
good. He
fun
knew.
fact, you were, I believe, almost named Yolanda, if
I
I recall
was.
correctly.
Yep. The
So
crazy thing is that my mom was going to name me Yolanda. And from what I understand, she had a friend or something that gave a suggestion, and somehow it ended up being Shavonda instead. But then my best friend ends up being Yolanda. What are the odds? God
Yeah.
knew.
While we're talking about name meaning, so my name is definitely Spanish and it means royal purple flower. Um, and I'm so,
Gloria a Dios.
yeah, Cheetah.
that's a family insider that at some point we'll get to.
So on the But podcast, we are definitely Espanol friendly. So
Yes.
habla Espanol. So we really
All
want
of that.
friends to join us as well.
All
Um,
of that.
but as far as nicknames for me, I have a nickname of Yanni. I have a nickname of Cheeks because I really do have like super fat cheeks. But yeah, I don't have any crazy,
Wait, you missing
Vonda
the most
calls you
important
Landy.
one.
huh?
I said
I
Vonda
you
mean,
calls
missing
you
the most
Landy.
important
person
one.
on earth that calls me Landy. I don't even know how that derived out of Yolanda, but she calls me Landy. But most of my family just calls me Londa, and I don't think it's for any reason other than they're lazy and they.
I
And
mean, I got Nene, so you know.
yeah,
That's true. We didn't talk about Nene
it's
or
just
Tink Tink. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah,
think I think our personalities reflect from the derivatives of our name, like Nee being a little bit feisty, but yet being a princess. You being like a flower. I could see that for you. And then mine meaning God is gracious. I think they're very reflective of who we are and who we're becoming. I love it.
true.
Yep. Okay, let's get into a little bit more about the connection between my friendship with Yolanda. Now, I will tell you that before Yolanda, I didn't have a friend in like, God, I wasn't antisocial, but I just didn't really connect with anybody since high school. And so I didn't really deal with people like that. So when Yolanda started coming to the church that I attended, United Nations Church, the first time I saw her, I think I might have spoken and I didn't think anything of it. And then all of a sudden she's on praise and worship. Like, how did that even happen? Where did that come from?
I think it would start off with the choir. And the
Okay.
choir director, love Norman, shout out to Norman, was like,
Yeah.
I got a feeling in my spirit that you're trying to run and hide, and I'm not going to let you do that. And so I don't know what transpired really, but I think him and Pastor Rob had some type of conversation behind the scenes, and Pastor Booker at the time.
Okay.
So
Yep.
now Pastor Booker, uh, Elder Norman, I don't know his titles right now, and Pastor Rob kind of all got together and I ended up on praise and worship, but I had already seen you at choir rehearsal. And I was like, and I also would see you a lot at 5 a.m. prayer. And I was like, oh, okay, who's this person with their siblings always bringing their siblings with them to 5 a.m. prayer? I was like, that's some dedication, yo. They're bringing their sister and their brother. Little did I know it's the children. But anyway,
Amen. That part.
um, I got on praise and worship, and I think a friendship just blossomed. But what's interesting is Shavonda says that she's not antisocial, and she's not, but she's very selective about friendship. But her family, praise the name of our God, this concept of no new friends, they embody.
Right.
They took it on as a badge of honor. So, like Shavonda was saying, we met at church, whatever, and just
So
felt
tell
like,
them about the first time. Tell them about us being at praise and worship rehearsal. This is when
oh,
I knew Yolanda was going to be my friend. This is when
okay,
I knew.
so this is how you should judge whether somebody is really going to be a good friend to you, is their ability to tell the truth. Now, anybody else would have thought I was rude and probably would have cursed me out even if we were at church. But Shavonda is, as you can see, a pretty young woman. And I looked down at her feet and she had sandals on and she had some busted toenail polish. Y'all, it looked like the scene from
I was in between
Boomerang.
seasons, y'all. Just don't judge
I
me. It
was
was just
like,
because I couldn't afford it at the time. But go ahead, Yolanda.
I was horrified. I was like, there is no way she with her it's the sanctuary with busted toenail polish. And I think I said something to the fact like, don't ever come out the house with your feet looking like that
She
again.
did. That's exactly what she
And,
said.
and again, anybody else would have cursed me out. And that's what you'll learn in this podcast. I'm very fun, but I'm also very matter of fact. And she just bust out laughing. I was like, okay, she's cool. We can definitely be friends. Because the fact that she didn't take that personal, the fact that she was like, girl, yes, my feet sure are busted. It just blossomed from there. But like Shavonda said, it escalated. And we were like, okay, hey, it's a God thing. It's advantageous for us to move in together.
Oh wait,
But
we got to go back one. We got to go back for two things. So there were three defining moments I think that connected us, not just as friends, just in a natural, but also spiritually. The second one, I don't even know how we got to. I needed to wash my clothes.
yes.
Okay, so I needed to wash my clothes, and I don't even know how we got into the on the topic, but in conversation, you were like, "Well, just bring your clothes to my house, Sal. Then we can hang out, and while you're washing your clothes, we can catch up and eat or do some stuff or whatever." And at the time, you sold Mary Kay, and you was like, I can show you some Mary Kay stuff, and blah 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 blah
Oh,
blah.
that's right.
Yeah, so I go and I have literally like 6 huge loads of clothes. Yo,
No, thought she was gonna show up with a basket. She brought the entire.
listen, I brought everything, and so she was like, "Oh,
I'm not
I
aware of this story. It's
again,
the
I
first
was
time I'm
in
hearing this
between.
story.
Listen, I was in between seasons. Like I financially, it just wasn't there, and so just her response was like, "Oh, okay, we're gonna do this. This is fine." And she handled it like a champ. So that was the second defining moment. For me, the third defining moment was when we had a tent revival
Yeah.
at church. And for those of you who may not know this, but like sometimes with old school church, they have a tent revival where they put this huge big top tent up like a circus tent outside, and we have service outside. And the purpose of it is just so that I can get across the airways, and people that may not be drawn into a church will be drawn by the sound and come to church. So now the tent revival was not for the faint of heart. Like you had to be a true warrior to endure the heat because it was in the dead of the summer. But anyway, long story
And
short,
on that pavement on that
yes.
lot.
Oh my
Loki.
God. It's like molten lava.
Oh,
But anyway, now how you see Yolanda and my sister is pretty much how these are our personalities. Yolanda is very beautiful, very intelligent, always put together. So there was a moment under the tent where the Lord was like, give her $20. I'm like, get this girl $20. I'm thinking she's good. I'm looking at her and why would she want $20? I'm like, this is silly. But the Lord kept pressing it on my heart to give it to her. And so I sat down beside her very discreetly and I just passed her the money. And
I lost it.
she
I
did.
lost it. I was broke as a joke. It was terrible. I completely lost it. I laid in her lap and cried like a baby.
And I remember her
My
saying to me
God.
later, she said,
Celeste.
"You have no idea, but at the same time that Lord was dealing with you about handing me the money, you were asking God, how am I going to get home? I don't have any gas money in my car." And so for me,
Wow.
that to me is what sealed it. So bringing it full circle, after that moment, we were back in the sanctuary and Dr. Medina was preaching. And somehow she said over the pulpit, I forget how she said, but she said,
Yeah,
something, you want to
I
take
remember it.
over?
She was
Okay.
like, in this season, she was preaching about Mary and Martha coming together. And she was like, in this season, now, for those of us that know, and then I'm going to get into how I know Nee and our dynamic, but Shavonda was sitting on one side of the church. And during that time, even though I was on praise and worship, I wasn't sitting over there with them. I was on the completely other side of the church.
Mm-hmm.
So Pastor Medina was like, I just believe that God's going to bring people together like Mary and Martha. And the same way that Mary went and lived for several months with Martha, I see some people. And when she said that, like it looked like something off of a movie. I literally did like this looking on the other side of the church. Shavonda did like this looking at me. I think I probably ran and passed
You
out.
did. We ran. Yeah, we ran.
You are
We high
good
fived each
for a
other.
run and
We
a Baptist
did.
buck,
And
okay?
we just, without
Listen,
saying anything, without saying
knew,
anything, we knew
knew
that
what I was at.
it was God. At the time, like she said, I was a single mom with two kids. I was living in an apartment and I was just really just trying to make it. I was trying to make ends meet, but things were just extremely tough at the time. And so we were able to come together and strategize, and we split the bills a certain type of way where both of us would be allowed to also pay down debt, pay down credit, and different things that we had. And I mean, we stayed, you moved in for like, I mean, it was
It
for a
was a little
while.
over a year. It was a
Yeah,
little.
and somehow my house became the sanctuary for not just Yolanda, but except my cousin came at some point, family members came at some point. It was just like one of those things where God just used divine wisdom to show us how to get out of debt. And when I say my family was like, you don't know this woman.
No,
You
I'll
talk
say, but she can't say it. They was like, hell no, we won't. That's what that.
me. Tell us a little bit about when you heard that I have Yolanda was coming to move in with me.
I was like, who the hell is this chick? Like, where'd she come from? Like, and why are you having her moving in? Like, it'd be one thing if you're single and by yourself, but my niece and my nephew around, who is this person? Where'd she come from? So, and it's awkward because, all right, so we come from a very large family. Like, my
Yeah.
mom is one of eight. So, and of those eight children, there's a bunch of cousins and all kinds of stuff or whatever. So, we're accustomed to gathering and doing things like that or whatever. So, of course, and in here in this area, it's just us. So we always are going to somebody's house. So when we're going over there, we like, but who is she? Like, and where she come from? And I do think, in hindsight, and just kind of knowing our family history, we're a church family. And so growing up in church, you see a lot.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that like to latch themselves onto you for sometimes good reasons and other times you just don't know. So and
Right.
even though you extend grace and you're open and welcoming to a certain point, because you see the not so great side of how people can be, it makes you skeptical of like, I don't want to let you in. But then that's for me myself, and that's, he's yet working on me. I'm not the the easiest person to let people in anyway.
Right.
But yeah, so when we're over there, we're like, she ain't got no family. Like, why she here? Like,
You ain't got
It's
nowhere else to
ain't
go.
got no. It's the orphan. What are you
And
talking?
it's like,
it was one of those things where it was exhausting at a certain point, because it was like, okay, you know me, you know my character. I don't fool with people. I told y'all I ain't have a friend in years before Yolanda. So if I was like, you just have to trust me on this one, that this is a divine connection, because she's my Elizabeth, Mary and Elizabeth in the Bible. And that's something that that's the connection that we had. And so, I had to just be like, I'm going to do what I need to do because I know that this is a God thing. And I'm so grateful. I mean, Yolanda is literally, we have a family chat, and Yolanda is a part of the family chat. There is no
Oh yeah.
separation.
Oh yeah.
She is like a sister. And sometimes there was a certain point, I mean, I used to feel some type of way. I don't anymore, but there was a certain point where me or my mom will be like, yeah, I talked to Yolanda this, or we had a conversation, or she
No,
about to,
no.
I'm like, how you know she about to go to Dominican Republic? And I was like,
No, no, no.
she
It
was my
be
friend first.
that's it right
That's
there.
the
Right
thing.
there. She was my friend
She was
first.
my friend first. Don't get it twisted. But she's so
Let's
integrated
talk
into our
about
family though now. It's
yeah,
such a
let's talk
blessing.
about though the hazing process, because I think this concept of no new friends is a big one. And I say this because with this podcast, we want you all to feel like our friends and our family. And so in the same way we're talking about how things just come together, that's how we want you to feel when you join us, that you're with family. But I was hazed. Let me be very clear. And I
Yeah.
had pledged the
You gotta
sorority.
have thick skin in my
Yeah,
family,
I,
boy.
I pledged the sorority and all, so I know what it takes to, go through a process. I'll leave that right there. But this was a different level of hazing. Like they would come over and be looking like, asking questions. And I was like, okay, my family is just like their family. And my family would have been doing the same thing if the roles had been reversed. But I was like, look at them asking questions so that they can compare notes to be like, is she really psycho? And this, but the most telling moment, it was two defining moments in my hazing experience with the family. It was playing Scrabble. Y'all, I thought that this was just going to be like a
It gets
friendly
very intimate.
getting to know you because you're going to be around my niece, my nephew, blah, blah, blah. No, these jokers do not play games in a way that is inviting. So I'm sitting here coming up with three-letter words like cat, hat, dog, mouse,
Yeah.
basic stuff.
Yeah.
They're like coming up with 50-letter words. I'm like, what's happening? They're talking smack like it's a space game. And that's when I saw the walls come down. It was like, oh, well, you
Yeah.
might have to hang a little bit. But the second defining moment was during Fireproof. I think because I was
Yeah.
at the end of my hazing experience, we were all watching Fireproof in the living room. And this was after a service. We were eating food or whatever. And there's a part in Fireproof where a certain person of a certain ethnicity, shall name remain nameless, was getting prayers answered. And their mom screams out, well, God darn, I need to get my prayers answered by saying a certain thing. And I think the way that we all hollered and laughed, I think
Yeah.
that moment it just broke the tension because it was just like, you know what? We're one big happy family because clearly we all need God to do something great in our lives. But it's funny how things have gone full circle with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yes, yes,
So I'm
yes.
trying to
And
figure
I
out though,
think
how
that
do y'all end up talking every day? Because I let me just say this. I am not the friend that will do a whole bunch of talking on the phone and texting. I'm not. I'm more like spiritually
for the
led,
sister.
the Lord told me X, Y, and Z. Or if I'm in town, we'll go out, have a great time. But I've never been, I'm just very to myself, just in general.
You're
It's just my
you're Mother
personality.
Teresa of Southside. You're a full-time ministry. So so
Anyway,
you're usually wrapped up in the things that you have going on with
yeah,
church, which is not a bad thing.
yeah,
So, and then when, for somebody like me that isn't, a part of a church home locally or
yes.
anything like that,
I got my
uh,
seto to go shama masi. Hey, sorry, I felt that in
see,
the spirit.
this is what we talk about.
Woo!
So,
Not yet, but it's coming. Hey.
I'm definitely
yeah, anyway,
Okay, go ahead.
so in those times where it's like, all right, what are we doing? Vonda's at a rehearsal, she's feeding the homeless and clothing the naked. What are we gonna do? And then it's just like, I guess we just kind of, I don't know how it kind of happened. It just kind of happened where in that space of time, you want to go here, you want to do this, you want to do that. That's just kind of how it kind of rolled. But I really think it wasn't until she kind of moved away
that's
Yeah.
also
that we became closer.
Mm-hmm.
Not when she moved to Fredericksburg, because y'all were still pretty like more involved then. But it
Mhm.
was when she moved to DC
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we still just kind of we stayed connected or whatever. And then I would constantly be up there all the time.
Yeah. I was. That's.
And
I.
her family
Mhm.
would be
That's.
looking at me like, who is this?
It,
Right. Who that
look
But
how
they
woman,
love me
God
and
does
I
it.
love them.
Look at how God does. I would say definitely when I moved to Birmingham, because I was someplace by myself, Reunita would call me constantly and be like, "How are you transitioning? How are you doing?" And I think she and I, because of the roles that we play at work, and you guys will hear that a lot, we started relating on that level with the people and their needs at work. I'll leave it like that. Praise God. And then to your point, Renita, when I moved back from Birmingham to DC, you and I really got tight during that time because you were constantly driving to DC as a getaway for you. And it was escape for me at the same time because I was dealing with so much transition personally, um, that it was a big sister that I never.
Aw. That's
But yeah,
Oh
awesome,
Lord.
though. Yeah, I mean, so it's a blessing because sometimes you don't know what you need. There was a void that was in my life that just for companionship, and just friendship that I didn't even realize. And if I hadn't have been open, I would have missed that. So, I mean, that's a message for anybody that's listening. Like, there are times in our lives where God will send people into our lives and we just have to be open to find out if it's a God thing, in the same manner in which you guys connected. You guys were able to fulfill a space that you guys needed at the time that I couldn't provide. Because to Nee's point, I am typically working a lot just in the community and this, just doing what God has called me to do. And so, but I believe that there's space for all of that,
mm-hmm.
and God will bring people into your life to just kind of cultivate the things that are within you, and then also just to be there to support you. So
That's true.
it's
That's
all love. Yeah.
And I think one of the things that you said, Shavonda, that's good that I want to piggyback off of is just because someone is not playing the dominant supporting role in one season, it doesn't mean you need to throw them away because you
That's
don't
true.
know what role they're going to play in a different season. So where and I think with our friendship with all three of us, we kind of show up in the spaces that is needed in
Yeah.
that moment. And you have to be okay with playing whatever role you're
Right.
supposed to play in that moment. And I think people miss friendship opportunities because they want someone to show up in a certain way instead of accepting them. This is where they're at, and this is the role that they're going to play, not knowing that maybe 6 months, a year from now, they're going to play a pivotal role in a more dominant way when I'm dealing with something else. So you got to stay open because your friends have different purposes and
That's
they'll
right.
show up in
In
different ways,
different
different
seasons.
seasons. Mm-hmm.
I agree with
Yeah,
that, but I will say I'm quick to cut somebody off though. If it ain't right,
this is true.
my block aim is strong. And so, there are spaces where you have to also identify if this is if this is mutually beneficial
That's
for the
true.
both of you.
That's true.
And some friendships are only meant for a season. They are not meant for a lifetime.
True.
And especially when you have like a major call or purpose or destiny for your life, sometimes it'll slow us down if we continue to pull people along that just aren't growing, just not moving in the same direction as you, and it can become a stumbling block. So make sure that you have balance with that.
I
Very
feel like
true.
Go ahead,
sometimes
Nick.
in all I feel like sometimes in all things, I recall this passage from Iyanla Van Zant where I want to say the book was In the Meantime, where she said that what you attract is a reflection of who you are. And I think
That's good.
that sometimes when we find ourselves in any type of relationship where we're letting people in or whatever, sometimes God's purpose in bringing people in our lives is just to show us who we are,
That's good.
to
Wow.
expose us to us, and and sometimes you just kind of have to take that for what it is, and then there are other times where like you said, it's going to be somebody that's going to be for a season. And I always like to say season, reason, lifetime. Like, there's a lesson to be learned. There's a season of my life, or it's somebody that's going to be there for you. Like, you came in here, but I know we going the distance. So, definitely have to. I think for me, the reason why I'm so hard at the beginning is because I don't want to unnecessarily let somebody in.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Yeah. I don't want to let somebody in
No, let's
unnecessarily.
stay in that space. Say what you was about to say. Don't hold back. What you was about
Uh-uh.
to say?
You got what? Trust
No, no,
issues?
no, no, no. I don't want to let somebody in unnecessarily because I mean nobody wants to be hurt or disappointed by the people that you let into your life. So, my vetting process is not the easiest.
Yeah, but sometimes when you put those walls up, you know, there as at a certain point you have to be able to yield and just create a door because you could be pushing away the very thing that's designed to be a part of your future.
That's so
So
good.
there is this,
Absolutely.
and you particularly your personality is one like, don't come for me, don't talk to me, don't mess with me. I don't exist in your world, okay? And so some I understand that you have a hard shell but a soft inside, but a person who's trying to get to know you may not understand that and be turned off by it. Like there are certain personality traits. I know for me, I'm very quiet. And so sometimes people think that she's just so standoffish, she's antisocial. And it's really not that. It's just I'm so busy in the space that I'm in. And then I'm very shy too, which a lot of people don't really know. I don't like growing up, Nee was the one that talked. Nee was the one, she was the singer. She was the one who was called up to the church altar
For
and was
everything.
right to lead a solo or what have you. And I was the shy one that kind of hung on her coattails until she was like, listen, you need to find your own friends, get a life. And then yeah, true story. And but I'm not bitter, I'm fine. But
I
it's
don't think I did
like,
it that way.
well, I mean, you did. I mean, it wasn't like that, but that's the synopsis of what happened. But at the end of the day, I tend to just gravitate to what's comfortable for me, which I know is not always a good thing because God always takes us from faith to faith and glory to glory, and He pushes us, and we have to be open to connections. And for me, this is that season where I'm exposing myself and opening myself in a most vulnerable way to learn and get to know different people because we do need people. It was God said it
Absolutely.
wasn't good for man to be alone.
I mean, that was the whole point of him even creating Eve. But I will say, I will say that for me, one of the things that I am learning at this point is that it's fine to be the way that I am, but I need to yield to the Holy Spirit to help me in those moments where I could miss that opportunity for the person that's meant to be in
Yeah.
that space. So, though my shell may be hard, it's not always hard for everybody. I hope that makes
Right.
sense.
And it's I do think it's a layer of protection. I've never been the one to like, and not everybody's coming over my house. Not everybody's gonna get my phone number. There are certain people you keep at arm's length and you're cordial, but they'll never get a peek into my life. Not for real. They'll know what they think they know, but that's it. And that's fine because you do have to protect your space. But like you said, you just need to yield to Holy Spirit so that if that divine connection comes along, you don't miss that moment just because you're afraid to let somebody in.
That's true. I think I'm the opposite of both of you all. Like I am Southern hospitality one.
Yes, you are
So I'm like,
Personified.
you want a
personified.
fish sandwich? Come to my house. You need water? Come to my house. Now, what's interesting is I'm very extroverted in coming, being hospitable. You're gonna come to my house. I'm finding every excuse to throw an event, throw a party. But I will say I am similar to Shavonda in that way where people think because they meet the
Mhm.
social part of me that they know me. And I'm like, you think you know, but you really have no
No
idea.
idea.
The real parts of me
Clearly.
clearly. The real parts are reserved for those that I have emotionally vetted. And I don't think people realize, even with those of us who tend to be more socially introverted, but emotionally, socially extroverted, but emotionally introverted,
Introverted. Hmm.
that while we're giving you the outside parts of us, is usually in response because we didn't have those environments growing up. But emotionally, we are very selective about who we let into those spaces. So I would admonish you, just because you have a friend that you feel like is the bubbly, outgoing one, or even like Shavonda alluded to earlier, quote unquote put together, they're okay, they don't need anything. A lot of times those individuals may emotionally be introverted and looking for safe spaces to open up to, because they are afraid of getting hurt as well. And so it's easier to kind of keep people at arm's bay by saying, you only get this version of myself and not get the whole of me. And that's something that I'm trying to work my way out of.
And let's stay right there for a second, because that takes work to be able to identify the needs of a friend,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
especially if all the three of us are strong. We handle our business well and aren't always good at raising our hand to say I need help. So I know for me, like in the very beginning with my friendship with Yolanda, even in my as my sister, need, I you have to find and create ways to just be there in the beginning so that they know that you're a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes time and development.
That's true.
Yep.
Well, this has been great conversation. We are so excited to start this journey with you all, whether you're listening for the fourth time, the first time, the 100th time. We're so happy that you are a part of our family, and hopefully you got to know a little bit more about us, as well as got some good nuggets on how to show up and be a good friend and get rid of this environment of no new friends. Hey, think about the friends that you have in your space. We want to be your friends. We want you to listen to us on our podcast. But clearly, again, stay tuned this season. We've got some great topics for you. We are really going to get into the juiciness of it all. This is probably the most rated G version of the podcast that you're going to hear.
Lord, Lord,
Today's
Lord.
podcast has been brought to you by Jesus Groupie Clothing. It is owned by our very own Shavonda Dixon. So if you have not checked out Jesus Groupie Clothing, please go and do that by going to the jgshop.com. All right, guys, until next time, keep it safe in these streets. Bye.
Bye.